I'm Sue Hewlings, Director of Scientific Affairs at Nutrasource GRAS Associates.
I'm Maggie Jaqua. I'm the Content Director of WholeFoods Magazine.
I'm Heather Wainer, the Publisher and the Vice President of Media with WholeFoods Magazine.
Boy, so basically we've worked together on some virtual events. Heather is my publisher at the magazine, and we've worked with Sue on some virtual events through the Naturally Informed series and with Nutrasource. Keeps us up to date on the science and a great source for our magazine.
Yes, we're all great women in the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I would doubt that would be my answer to that. Would be, I think we're all trying to educate and inform people in the industry, and then also stay on top of a really rapidly changing and evolving industry too.
All right, well, today actually is International Women's Day, so it's really fitting that we're all sitting here together, being leading women in the industry. But Expo West, of course, we're going to be here. It's been 2 years. So
Good to be back.
Yes. And what a way to kick it off here today. And yeah, we've been talking, and we've felt for a while, being a women-led industry, a women-led company, that we should be doing more speaking of women in the industry. And Nutrasource came in with the idea to work with us together on this, and Sue was the obvious choice to help us with this, and here we are.
So we teamed up to do a new series. It's called NutraViews, and we're going to be looking at topics that are relevant to women in the industry, but also just to help everybody in the industry to better serve the female audience. I mean, there's a huge opportunity there, and we're missing some things in this industry, so we want to start conversations. We're going to be doing a 4-part series. We'll have webinars so people can join us and ask their questions. So we'll be there to get your questions answered. And we're also going to have podcasts, various things, and we're going to bring in different leaders in the industry with a female perspective and hear a lot of different voices. We have four coming up over the course of the year. We are kicking this off on March 23rd. We have a webinar, and in that we're going to look at lack of female representation in research, which is really a problem. Sue's very familiar with this, and she's going to keep us up to date on some of the problems and the solutions that we need to be talking about as an industry.
Yes, I plan to talk about lack of representation for females in research, and I think we'll probably also touch on the fact that females make a lot of the decisions for buying supplements and other consumer goods, and a lot of times the marketing messages are just like, put a pink wrapper on it and we'll market it to female, or show a female in a traditional role in said commercial or said ad, and that's how we'll market it to females. So I think we're going to talk about some ways to maybe think about a more modern perspective to including females in both the science aspect as well as the marketing messages.
Absolutely. So we're not leaving anybody out here. This is a conversation for the whole industry. We're just looking at topics that are relevant to women and serving this huge audience that is your consumer. So we're talking to everybody, and as I said, we'll have webinars and we'll also have podcasts bringing in different industry leaders, men and women, but really focusing on topics that are relevant to serving the female consumer. Well, as Heather said, I mean, at WholeFoods Magazine, we are a female-led company. So we see firsthand, we see the need for the audience, and we just want to communicate these messages and help people to not miss out, to help our consumers, but also to help on the business side. This is a huge opportunity that can help you grow and succeed. So we want to make sure that we're covering it.
And I think for me, there are several issues really. Every National Women's Month or Women's Day, I always think to myself, what I really want is that we no longer need a day. And that really it is equal opportunity, and that we're all one, from race, gender, ethnicity, sexual identity, etc. So I hope we don't need separate days. And I think that that's part of what I always think about. And also, of course, making opportunities for everybody in science. And I think that's part of what I always am thinking about and what I want to talk about.
And there's so many women in this industry that have really achieved great things, that are really doing wonderful things together. And yes, it shouldn't matter what sex you are, what color you are. None of that should matter. But we are breaking the ceiling in this industry.
Absolutely, and I think it's important to note. My thoughts are on the flight. I watched the documentary on Ruth Ginsburg, so it got me thinking about all this stuff because most of what they highlight in her career happened in my lifetime, and so I think to myself, wow, that's just really a short period of time. And they spend a lot of time talking about so many social and cultural issues. And really, I think the dietary supplement industry and science in general is a reflection of so many of those cultural issues. So it really does just tie together. Like in a very short period of time in our lives, we've seen big changes for women culturally speaking.
It just reminds me that my first issue ever at WholeFoods Magazine back in like 1998, maybe, we did a cover story of women in the industry, and we featured, Janet Zand and several. I think we had like 10 people, but now there's so many more people that we can feature. So we want to elevate these voices.
I do remember that. Yeah. So back then we still were thinking it, and I mean, obviously the industry has grown quite a bit since then. But yeah, that's an excellent point. I do remember that.
Remember that story?
I do remember that.
And I think it's a reflection too of the field of nutrition. When I first took my first nutrition class, most nutrition departments were within home economics because it was food and it was supposed to be, what like women and food and home economics and things like that. And I've seen it really evolve quickly to being recognized as the science that it is, and that it's the integration of so many other sciences. So I think there's several things that are connected surrounding that.
Well, first of all, the natural product consumer is mostly a mom, a woman in their 30s and 40s. So that is your consumer, so to say. I mean, it's changed a little bit, but that's the person that's going to Whole Foods Market or Sprouts or whatever, or your local store.
And shopping for the whole family too, not
exactly.
just for herself.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just, obviously now it's progressed to, it's good, obviously for your children, it's good enough for you, it's good enough for your children, and pets, obviously, it's it's good enough for you, it's good for your pets. So it's been a whole thing, and that's where your focus is, and that's your consumer. So it makes sense for more women to be part of this industry and embody it, because we believe in it, and it's a lifestyle. And even when when I'm interviewing to hire people or things like that, people come to us and they're like, well, I'm so interested, it is a lot of females. I'm really interested in this industry, that I live this lifestyle. We've had plenty of people that work for me that are vegan, or just, it's no doubt about it, when you start working in this industry, your supplement closet gets a lot bigger. Actually, it becomes a closet. You probably have a cabinet, then it becomes a closet. It just is, that's the consumer.
And it's an interesting question, like why now? Well, why not before? I mean, like, we just have to do it. Like, why wasn't it before? It just should have been. So
well, I think we've had a revival in I hate to say women's movement, but I think the women's movement has experienced a revival. We saw a lot come to the forefront with the Me Too movement and the women's marches, and a lot of what's gone on politically, I think, has sort of like rejuvenated awareness that, hey, we've made great progress in a short time, and then we coasted for a little while. And so now we need to just like bump it up a notch and take it next level. And I think that's where some of this is coming from. And so it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So our first webinar is going to take place on March 23rd, and as I noted earlier, we will have a Q&A, so you can come in and ask your questions, and it also will be available on demand. And then we're going to continue, that one's going to focus on research, so the lack of representation in research. We're going to follow that conversation up with just noting, as we were talking about, that women are your consumers. So are you serving them? Are you serving them in the best way possible? And that'll follow up a little bit later in the spring. And then we're going to have more conversations to come from that. So it's just a great way to tune in, to think about conversations. And like we said, if you're a man or your consumers mostly men, I mean, we don't know where these conversations are going to go, how much we're going to learn, and all the information that you're going to be able to take from it. So
we really welcome anyone to join the conversation. Email us, whatever. Just send us questions that you want to talk, or topics that you want to talk about. We are kicking this off this year, but we do hope it's something that will be ongoing. It's a passion project for us, as I believe it's a passion project for Nutrasource. So we welcome it to continue. And when you do have anything that is involving with Whole Foods, of course, education is the core of what we do. So we'll be educating, but we're looking forward to what the conversation is going to lead to.
Yeah, well, I think we're all looking forward to participating and listening to it. And that is another great thing I love about our industry, is that it really is the greatest tie between education, science, marketing, sales, and everything kind of comes together. And it sounds like you guys are going to highlight all of that and how it's all connected and how we can better represent everybody within all the different target audiences.
We're going to really be bringing in different voices. We're going to hear from retailers, we're going to hear from people throughout the supply chain, and we're also going to talk to consumers, which I think will give us some interesting perspective, you know, in the marketing, really hear from, even generationally, different consumers to get a sense of, we know the data, we've seen the surveys, and we will talk about all that, but to really hear the voices and to include them in the conversation. So I'm looking forward to that.